Energy. Hey everyone, Mike and Jason here. We're leading up to the VOD and theatrical release of Dauntless, The Battle of Midway, coming up on September 6th. If you look in the description below, you can see the various theaters are going to be screening in, as well as the various VOD platforms. Dauntless is now available on Amazon for pre-order. If you click on the link below, you can pre-order the Blu-ray of Dauntless now. What you can get on that is a bunch of other behind-the-scenes stuff, which you're just not going to get on YouTube. So enjoy this week's behind-the-scene look of Dauntless, The Battle of Midway.
Oh dear God, the red light's on. I thought that I became a writer so I would never have to see that red light. So the inception of this movie started about 20 years ago when Mike came to me and he said, I'd like to shoot a short about a downed fighter pilot in the ocean, and we had discussed whether or not we were going to be able to do that. And at the time I was living on a boat in Marina del Rey, California, and thought, yeah, we could throw you off the back of my boat and we could shoot that. But it became extremely obvious, at least to me, that shooting a person in the water for a good 20 minutes by themselves, alone, was going to be extremely difficult to actually come up with a storyline. So we shelved that for a while and we did our first movie, Fortress. After Fortress was relatively successful, he came back to me and he said, let's do this as a feature. He had learned a lot of lessons about what we could and couldn't do with CG effects and with our actors, and we're able to come up with a relatively good skeleton story based around the Battle of Midway. After deciding to do this Midway movie, we did some research on certain individuals that we discovered were never recovered from sea and came up with Norman Francis Vanderveer, which was a pretty compelling story. The problem, of course, remains that now instead of doing a short where we had one person in the water, we now had two people in the water and we had 90 minutes to fill up. So we had to come up with a storyline around that would kind of illustrate not only the passage of time, but other events that were going on during the Battle of Midway and after the Battle of Midway. I've always loved the PBY Catalina. It's one of those aircraft and one of those stories that never gets told. The rescue, the scouts, the people that actually located the Japanese fleet during the Battle of Midway, the people that actually went and picked up all the downed pilots that were able to be recovered. Doing further research into them, they were the pirate ships of the Navy. They were independent commands that had very little oversight and reported in every couple of days to refuel and rearm. So they were perfect for our story and give our story a little bit of heart outside of the soul-crushing reality of being lost at sea.
Get me all misty-eyed.
With the PBY and the downed pilots, we had two storylines that were generally interchangeable, but we did have one problem, and that was covering what was actually happening in the wider scale of the battle, the passage of time, so to speak. So we went back to the tried and true method of actually showing the occurrences of the Battle of Midway without actually following any particular aspect of the battle itself. So we focused on the Admiral. The aircraft carrier portion of it allowed us to follow kind of the high-level interpersonal relationship between Spruance and Browning. Yes, there was a battle going on, and yes, they worked together, but for the most part, Browning, who was on loan from Halsey to Admiral Spruance, had very different personality than his commanding officer. Browning was kind of a golden boy for Halsey. Halsey kind of thought that he could do no wrong, and in truth, the man was incredibly intelligent, had a great tactical and strategic mind. He was just sort of an intense, almost heartless kind of individual where he really looked at a big picture and didn't really look down at the small details like men getting shot down and being left in the water. Very focused on the goal.
Been very successful so far, sir, but we can't let ourselves be distracted with rescue missions. Successful?
Whereas Admiral Spruance was an extremely down-to-earth, laid-back, sort of pragmatic commander who wasn't willing to throw men's lives away.
We have men in the water.
In the movie, we show that, and it almost kind of comes off as exaggerated, like a Hollywood exaggeration, but truthfully, we actually downplayed some of Browning's temper tantrums and such when he was having conversations on the bridge with Spruance.
You are dismissed.
It's all too common now in movies where we'll explore a battle like the Battle of Midway, and we will focus primarily on the actual tactical battle that occurred, the men that actually bombed and blew up the ships, shot down the enemy planes, and brought strategic victory to the battle itself. But I felt that this story needed to be told of the countless men that ended up in the water and were never recovered, because those men made sacrifices that without their contribution, the battle wouldn't have been a success, and they made the ultimate sacrifice. So I hope you find our movie as compelling and as interesting as I found it was to write.